There's bad news for international guests to Disney World. They've recently announced that Genie Plus is no more and they are switching to the new multi-pass and single pass system. However, this is a disaster for international visitors and today I'm going to tell you why. This video is going to be a bit different to my usual videos because they're normally super upbeat and happy, but unfortunately this is not a happy topic. I will be giving you tips and solutions of how to manage this news and make sure that it doesn't have a massively negative impact on your trip, but most magical guides, I set it up so I could give you the best tips and advice all to do with planning Disney trips. So when something like this happens and it isn't great news, I want to be honest and upfront and give you the reality of the situation rather than kind of just feeding you fluff being like, oh my god, it's great, this is gonna be great, when it's not. So today I'm going to give you the real tea and also give you those solutions so that you can still have an amazing Disney World trip. My name is Sophie from Most Magical Guides and I make videos packed full of tips and advice to help you visit the Disney parks like a pro, maximising the magic by mastering the planning. If you do like this type of content, then make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you never miss out on a video. So first up, I'm going to let you know what actually is multi-pass. I'm also going to let you know why this is such bad news for international guests and why this is a terrible move on behalf of Disney and the potential fallout from it. So first up, let's talk about what multi-pass and single pass are. By this point, everyone's kind of starting to get used to Genie Plus, how to use it, the tips and tricks to get the most out of it, and that's redundant now because we're switching to multi-pass and single pass. Now it is worth noting that single pass is simply a new name for the individual Lightning Lane system. So these are the rides that aren't included in Genie Plus that you pay for individually. Nothing about this is changing. It's exactly the same system. You'll be able to purchase individual Lightning Lanes the exact same way. It's just got a new name. So because of that, we're going to leave single pass to the side because that is totally covered and we don't need to talk about that anymore. So multi-pass is where it gets interesting. Multi-pass is going to be the new system to help you join the shorter queues. The benefit of multi-pass is that if you are staying on site at a Disney World hotel, you can book 7 days in advance of your trip, your ride reservations, and you could book 3 reservations at once. This can be great news because with Genie Plus, of course, you could only book at 7 AM on the day and you can only book 1 ride reservation at a time. So this does give you a lot more options and you will know in advance you've already got 3 ride reservations each day that you buy it. If you are staying off-site, you can still use the service, but you will book 3 days in advance. Of course, this is optional. Nobody has to pay for either of these. You can choose just to stand in the regular standby queue. However, if you do want to have shorter queue times, this can be a really good option. Plus, with the new multi-pass system, you can book up to 14 days of your trip at one time, which is fantastic. So if you know you want to be using it every single day of a trip or just a handful of days, you could do that all at one time. You don't have to be waiting. You can just get it all done and know your itinerary in advance of your trip. The way multi-pass will work is that once you have scanned into your first ride of the day, you can then book another ride. So you will always basically have 3 ride reservations at any time, which is great news. And you can also park hop. Now you do have to scan into your first ride reservation to be able to do so, but you can then book another reservation and that can be in another park. If this is sounding familiar, that is because it is. This is essentially the old FastPass Plus system, but it's now paid for. And just like the old FastPass system, the new multi-pass will have tiers. So there will be 2 tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 rides are the rides that a lot of people want to get on. So when you book your 3 ride reservations, you will be able to book 1 tier 1 ride and 2 tier 2 rides, and that will make up your 3 ride reservations. However, once you scan in and you've used your first ride of the day, there are no tiers once you are in the park, so you can book any reservations that are available. Magic Kingdom, Epcot and Hollywood Studios will have the 2-tier system, but Animal Kingdom will have no tiers, so you can book any of those rides. Now, of course, the benefit for multi-pass is that you can book in advance, so you've already got plans for your trip, and you can do the 3 rides, which is fantastic. The downside is that you would have more planning, as you would need to be able to slot these ride reservations into your itinerary, so you kind of would need to have some sort of loose itinerary to be able to do this. And it is worth noting that some of the attractions that you could get with Genie Plus aren't available with multi-pass, such as character meets. At the time of filming this, we haven't been given any costs, but it does seem like it's going to be dynamic like Genie Plus, so the price will fluctuate depending on the park you want to visit and also the time of year and how busy it is. So you might be thinking, well, this sounds good, this could help out my trip, so why is this not good news for international guests? And that is because we aren't going to be able to use it. In a bizarre twist to the tale, Disney have let everyone know that this is only available once you're on US soil. So US guests can book 7 days in advance if they are on site or 3 days in advance if they are off site. However, international guests will have to wait until they land in the US to be able to book, meaning that that first week of your trip, there's really no point in purchasing it because you're not going to get the full benefits. One of the big advantages of being able to book 7 days in advance, and one of the reasons that you might decide to stay on site with Disney World so that you can take advantage of this benefit, is that you are going to have access to all of the rides, particularly those tier 1 rides. The tier 1 rides are going to be the hardest to get reservations, and they're going to sell out like this. They're going to go very quickly, so if you don't have access to them at the 7-day mark, they're most likely going to be gone, meaning if you want to use it in your first week as an international tourist, the big ride reservations are going to be already whipped up, gone, not available, and then you're kind of paying for something that you don't really need. You're not going to get the most benefit out of it. One of the reasons people pay a premium to stay on site in a Disney World hotel is so that they can take advantage of the benefits that are included. And the fact that international guests are now being excluded from using these benefits is wild, and it's a really bad decision on Disney's behalf. Something that is very strange is the fact that US guests that stay off-site now have an advantage over international guests who are staying on-site. The fact that they will be able to book 3 days in advance, whereas you can't book until you're in the US, is absolutely astonishing. And this is a double whammy of bad news for people who are visiting with disabilities. Recently, the DAS Pass system changed, and a lot of people are now not being given the DAS Pass, and instead we're being told, oh, you should purchase Genie Plus to make it easier for you to visit. Now that Genie Plus is switching to multi-pass, that means international guests who also have disabilities can't even purchase that. So for guests with disabilities or additional needs, being told that you already have to pay for something to accommodate you, and, you know, monetizing disability, that's a whole different video topic that we could do, is already a shocking move. But then to be told you can't even purchase that if you're from outside the US is just awful, and it's going to have a massive impact on people's trips. Now, I did say I was going to mention some solutions, so let me break down things you can do if you do want to be able to skip the queue in Disney World. So of course, you could book multi-pass when you first arrive and use it in your second week. That way you would take advantage of the 7 days in advance offer if you were staying on site and be able to access those hard to get reservations. But you would have to do it in your second week, because if you wanted to book in your first week, most of those tier 1 reservations are already gone, so you're going to be paying out for something that you don't really need. So I wouldn't advise that. I would say it's a big waste of money. So instead, in your first week, use the standby lines. On your first day, maybe book some reservations for the next week, and then in that second week, you can go for those tier 1 rides that get the big queues. Of course, you can also utilise things like rope drop, and if you're coming from Europe or further afield, you're most likely going to be jet lagged, and that will be a massive advantage when you visit Disney World, because you're going to already be up super early in the morning, which means you can head to rope drop and be fresh and ready to go. Rope drop is the perfect time to head to those big rides that get long queues and be some of the first people on it in the day with a much shorter queue time. So this is a really good strategy to get around not being able to use multipass. Another good option is to go on those big rides right before park close. So if a park says it closes at 9 p.m, what that actually means is the last time you can enter a ride queue is at 9 p.m. So if you rock up a few minutes before, oftentimes the wait times are super overinflated. So it might say 45 minutes and you think, oh, that's a long time to wait, the park's closing, I better get going. But in actual fact, it's normally significantly shorter. So this is a really good option as well. Now, you may have seen online a lot of people talking about, well, just use a VPN, that'll get around this problem. And I don't think that's going to be possible. At the moment, if you do want to book tours or experiences, special events, you can't book via the Disney World UK website. However, However, you can book via the Disney World US website, but to access this, you need a VPN. And that's what people have been doing for a long time, and it works absolutely fine. However, the multi-pass system is going to be app-based, which means it's going to be GPS-based. So satellites are going to see whereabouts in the world your phone is located, and if that is outside of the US, you won't be able to use this, which is such a shame because it looks like there's going to be no loophole. You're going to literally just have to wait until you're in the US to book multi-pass if you want to use it. So of course, this has been very upsetting and stressful news for a lot of people. When you're planning your trip, it takes many months of saving. These are very expensive trips, particularly if you do pay that premium to stay on site. And we spend a lot of time making sure we will have the best trip ever. So this really does throw a spanner in the works. But I would say don't panic too much. If you utilise rope drop and getting in the queues just before park close, that can help with the really big rides. And if you do want to use multi-pass, it will be available in your second week. You just have to book it on the first day that you arrive in the US. And if you do have a trip that is coming up and you're very worried about this and you have questions, or you would like to have a strategy put in place for you of how to get on those big rides and the best way to get the most out of your day, do check out my Disney trip planning service. Here I can do Zoom calls with you to talk you through any of your concerns, come up with that itinerary or strategy. I also have a concierge service where I will plan out your whole trip for you, including a bespoke itinerary, your park strategy, and documents filled out so you know exactly what you're doing when. So if you had already planned out your whole trip and you're very worried about how this is going to impact it, make sure you go over to my website and book in today. So of course, this has been a super unpopular decision with international guests, and there has been a lot of backlash. A lot of people are complaining, so fingers crossed Disney are listening and maybe they will make updates to the system. So far, people have heard from Disney that they can't do it because of privacy reasons or GDPR, which personally I find hard to believe, seeing as we are able to book vacation packages with them, we can book dining reservations with them, they have our credit card details on file, we can book tours and experiences with them. It doesn't make sense that this one element of their business, suddenly there's privacy laws that they can't get around. And of course, previously with the old FastPass system, which this is basically a paid for version of, you could actually book online from anywhere in the world and book your 3 ride reservations a day. So it's very baffling why they're now saying that you can't do this, even though we know it has been possible and we book lots of other things via them. If this was an issue to do with privacy laws or legality, what's interesting to me is that Disney didn't delay the launch. Now, as I say, Disney have the resources, the power, the finance, the technology to be able to make a system that every single person can use. If they had some reason that they couldn't do that for international guests, they should have delayed it or scrapped it. The very fact that they had a system that was working, Genie Plus, where everybody could book at 7 AM, it was fair, you did it on the day, anyone from around the world could use it. Yes, you had to be in the US, but you had to book it on the day, so of course you were going to be there anyway. It didn't matter. Whereas now this new system, it's very unusual, and if they knew there was going to be issues with international guests using it, they either should have resolved it before launching it or created a whole new system. But this is very baffling to me, and I don't understand why they've gone about it this way. And let's not forget that Disney are a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company. There are always solutions, so if they wanted to fix it, they absolutely could. And that then makes us think, why are they doing this? What is the reasoning? Because we know it's most likely not the excuse that they're giving of security, and they have the power, the technology, the resources, the finance to resolve this sort of issue. So why are they doing this? And I can't really see the logic in this decision. International guests spend a huge amount of money at Disney because they stay for the longest, often 2 weeks or more, and when they're on site they tend to stay on site, so that means they're spending money on food, merchandise, drinks, snacks. So Disney make a huge amount of money off of international guests. And let's not forget, international guests are actually wanting to pay to skip the queue, so by excluding them it makes no sense whatsoever, because you're obviously losing money from not getting people buying multi-pass, but also you're making international guests feel really unwelcome. The Disney parks are meant to be inclusive and for absolutely everyone, and that was key to Walt's idea of building the Disney parks. So it's very unusual to see them excluding international tourists and making them feel unwelcome, and of course this also comes off the back of making disabled guests feel unwelcome. Disney was world famous for its amazing customer service, and it was one of those brands that, okay, you paid a lot to visit, but you did feel like you got your money's worth. And it seems like, particularly this year, that has really gone out the window. Of course, the past couple of years, and particularly after the pandemic, things have got more expensive. Things that used to be free are either now charged for or not included. But these are all things that people got used to. They got around. Yes, it was a bit annoying, but it didn't massively detrimentally affect your trip. No one likes having to pay a lot more than they used to. No one likes having to pay for things that weren't free. But a lot of people were still visiting because we were having a good time. We were like, okay, I can accept this if I'm going to have a good time. However, a decision like this massively damages the brand. It's not something people can just brush off because it will massively impact the enjoyment of their trips. But also turning around and saying to people, we don't really care about your experience, we don't care about your custom, is a massive no-no. And I can't understand the reasoning behind this. It's not on brand for Disney and it feels very, very unusual. This also comes at a bad time for Disney. Disney have had massive financial troubles the past couple of years, losing billions upon billions of dollars. Interestingly, the one areas where they were making money were the parks, and this is partly because the costs of going has increased so much, but people really want to get back to that magic. And now you're kind of putting a lot of people off going, which doesn't make any sense. If the one area you're making money, you then start saying to people, we don't really want you here, we're not going to make you welcome, and those people then go elsewhere or don't visit, that's going to have a massive knock-on effect. Now, this year in 2024, we've already seen attendance in the parks drop. I think this is because a lot of people were visiting last year for the end of the 50th anniversary of Magic Kingdom, but also a lot of people had trips that were postponed because of the pandemic, and their last chance they could have used vouchers was 2022, and they might have used them for 2023 trips. Now that that is over and people are feeling the full effects of how expensive the trips have now gotten, as well as the rising cost of living crisis, I think a lot of people haven't gone this year, and because of that the attendance is down, therefore money is down for Disney. So whilst they are in financial trouble and seeing the one area of their business where they have been making money now dropping, it really baffles me why they would make this decision, because a lot of international tourists will now either not go to Disney World, they'll visit a different Disney park in the world, or they will stay off-site, or the worst thing for Disney, they will head to Universal. Now, whilst Disney have been having a lot of financial troubles, Universal have been thriving. Of course, next year, Epic Universe is opening in Orlando, so you're going to have a whole new theme park. There's also going to be 3 hotels, so that is going to be such an amazing thing for people visiting Universal. Universal are also building a small family theme park in Texas. They've recently bought Port Aventura in Spain, and they are opening a UK theme park in the coming years. So Universal are thriving and expanding whilst Disney are having a lot of difficulties. So it makes it even more baffling why Disney would hand over a lot of their custom to Universal. At a time when Disney should be super competing with Universal to entice people to stay on site at Disney World by giving as many benefits and reasons as possible to spend your money with Disney, they're doing the opposite. The past couple of days after this news was announced, I was thinking the people in the Universal head office must be laughing and every day being like, I can't believe this. I cannot believe, what are they doing? And rubbing their hands because it's going to work out so well for Universal. With Epic Universe opening next year, it was already going to shake up how people visit Orlando because you're going to need a longer time in the Universal parks. So you're going to have to decide, are you going to stay on site at Disney, on site at Universal? Are you going to do a split stay? Are you going to stay off site and just visit both the parks? Are you going to do less days at Disney because you need more days at Universal? It was already creating an interesting conundrum. So because of this, like I say, Disney needed to be doing as many things as possible to entice people to keep visiting them and particularly to spend money with them to stay on site. It is significantly more expensive to stay at a Disney World resort than at Universal Studios. And Universal also do offers such as if you stay at a deluxe resort, you get express passes for everyone in your room for both your check-in and check-out day and any dates in between. So which is a massive benefit. So it's very interesting that Disney have done the opposite, and instead of trying to entice people, they're kind of almost actively trying to dissuade certain people from coming to visit them. So all in all, the launch of the multi-pass system could not have gone any worse. It is terrible news for international guests because it will have an impact on your trip. So I hope that the tips and advice I've given in this video will help you out. I really do hope that Disney do change their mind because, like I say, this doesn't just impact people's trips and they may decide in the future to not return or to stay off site, but it damages the brand because a company that was famous for putting customers first, and you know, even when they put the prices up, if you're giving people the good experience, they will still come and they will still pay. Something like this, where you're actively making people feel unwelcome to visit and that you don't want their custom, that's hard to come back from. And once you damage your brand's reputation, that is a massive mountain to climb. It's one thing making unpopular decisions, but it's another thing doing things that actively offend most of your customer base. So this is a very interesting time for Disney. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Would you purchase multi-pass if we were actually able to? Are you going to use it in your second week? Is that going to be a good workaround for you? Are you someone that wouldn't be paying for this anyway because you've already paid enough for your trip? Would this decision now make you think about staying off-site in the future? Will you hop over to Universal and stay at one of their hotels? I'd love to know your thoughts on this, so do let me know in the comments. Like I say, this is a bit of a different video to usual, but I honestly believe, as someone who is a big lover of Disney, that if they deserve criticism, then you have to give it. I'm not going to be someone that sugarcoats things or bigs up a brand when I think they're doing things that are a real disservice to people. So I hope this video has been helpful, it's been informational, and yes, I hope soon we will have some good news and I can be doing a video all about how you can use it to benefit your trip. If you'd like to watch some more videos about how to get the most out of your Disney World trip, then do stick around to the end because I have a playlist that's ready for you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a most magical day. Bye bye.